Good evening. Patrick here, Eight Questions With, and welcome to a sloppy Tuesday. It has been raining here pretty much nonstop all week, all day, I should say. I believe this is the rain that we got from Florida. Florida had a tropical storm, and I think we caught the remnants of it. Um, so it's been pretty interesting to say the least. Wow. So tonight our guest will be actor Paul Shadow, actor producer Paul Shadow. Um, he starred in the Omicron Killer. We also talked to Chris Lazaro, who also was in that film as well. And Paul's got some interesting credits. He's had a very interesting career. I can tell you that right now. He's pretty energetic too. Um, and he's going to also be the biggest guest that we've ever had, as he stands 6'6", 6'7", and yeah, that'll be. I think you will find out a reason why he's in such demand too. When you read his line of credits, you see he's popped up in some of the biggest movies in the last 20 years or so. You name it, he probably has been in it. Hey Joshua, how are you? Glad you're here. Glad you're here. Hey Jim, how are you? All right, doing all right, doing okay. Enjoyed your top westerns. Just to let you know that we will be August is Western Month here on Eight Questions With. We will be talking with Corin Nemec on the 16th of August about his new Western called Place of Bones. And then on the 23rd of August, in a Friday afternoon show, we will be talking with Alexander Nevsky, Jim Cornette, and Tatiana Neva. We'll be talking to them about their sequel, uh, taken from Rio Bravo, which is another Western that's featuring Don the Dragon Wilson and Cynthia Rothrock. And those are two independent Westerns. And glad to see him, right? That's him. That's Corin Nemec. That's the same one. He will be here on the 16th, and we will be talking Western movies. Place of Bones. Is his co-star is Tom Hopper, and Heather Graham is also going to be in that film. So yeah, it's two independent westerns in two weeks. I'm loving it. Of course, anybody who looks at my channel should know that my channel is named after a western. It's named after Have Gun Will Travel, and featuring the Paladin, which is the name of my cat. My cat's name is Paladin, and it's Have Cheetah Will View. So yeah, I'm very excited. Yes, he was great in The Stand. I didn't think I wish they would have picked someone a little bit different. And here's an ironic twist about that. So he played Harold, and Laura San Giacomo played Nadine. In the new Stand, the one they remade, Heather Graham played Nadine. And I don't know who played Harold, but uh, uh, in the uh, uh, in the remake, they had Heather Graham playing Nadine, I believe. So that's a little bit of a twist. Um, yeah, I just want to take a minute here. So every day, you always hear some things that disturb you, and yesterday I found out that a close friend of mine from back in the day, back when I worked in music, he passed away yesterday. His name was Chris Esparza, and I have mentioned him on my channel before. Um, Chris Esparza was a club owner and mover and shaker in San Jose in cultural and musical events. I met him when he worked at a club called FX. But before that, he worked at a place called No One Step Beyond, where he became a club legend for keeping the place safe. He went over and became a manager at the FX before he went on to found two of his own clubs. He founded a club called Ajax Lounge with Chris Elliman. another good guy. And then he went over with Chris and started Fuel 44, both in San Jose. Um, I remember the kindness of Chris. He always had a word for everybody. Um, positive word. There was no one better. I mean, I only saw one person better at watching your back if you ever got into a scrap. Um, that was Jimmy Dave. I got to hand it to Jimmy Dave. But otherwise, Chris Esparza, he was probably the second. And it wasn't because of brawn, because Chris was a big man and a strong man. But Chris could get out of trouble. And I learned this from him. He could get out of trouble by using his brain. I rarely ever saw him ever lose his temper or put hands on anybody. If, let's see. Owen Teague played Harold, and Johnny Depp's crazy Amber Heard played Nadine. Oh, okay. And Rita played. Oh, Rita. Okay, that was from Larry Underwood. Okay, okay. I was gonna say, if she played Nadine, that what a weird twist that would have been. All right, the doorbell has rang, so that means our gentleman is here today, and this is going to be a lot of fun. Let me tell you, Paugh Shadow is going to be so much fun to talk to, and his turn in Omicron Killer. Yeah, I can't wait to get into it. So let's go get him. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Patrick. How are you?
Good, good. Man, I've been waiting for this one. First of all, you're now officially the biggest guest I've ever had on my show. How tall are you?
I'm 6'6", about
6'6".
big guy.
I think I got you beat on the weight, so you're good there.
We had me up to 360 pounds for that film.
Really?
Yeah,
Now, did they ask you to do that?
Well, I decided with Jeff, the director, because we both were writing the story, that the guy needs to be big, And I've always been a big guy. I'm 6'6", but the weight, it needed to show that this was a guy who, just a big guy, and it's easier to show it with a lot more weight that it's actually a big guy, I think.
Yeah, it does seem like I would think of all the big serial killers that we've had in films. I think no doubt, Joe, I will be there, sir. I think the smallest one that I know of is probably Robert Englund. Otherwise, you look at Kane Hodder, you look at Kane Hodder, you look at the gentleman who played in Jason, you look at the gentleman who played in Halloween. They're big men, physically imposing,
Right.
because they have to have that sense of true menace. Size.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll go ahead.
I said we also wanted to have it a little bit like reality. We didn't want to. It's not a supernatural guy.
No.
He's a real human being who, without spoiling the movie, goes through real life situations. And it's not like you had like a 120-pound guy trying to show that he can do things like Jason and Michael. You wanted to have somebody who you would believe could do this thing. So that was basically why we kept that persona of that character, is to be a big menacing guy, not some skinny guy, not 220 pounds, not just tall, but a mountain.
A mountain. And I liked how you wear your mask. I love your center photographer was able to drill in on your eyes, and because your eyes did a lot of speaking for you without saying anything. I mean, you're sitting there and you're just reading your eyes. And I thought that was a really nice touch.
That was the whole point of that too. I mean, we really, it was deliberate. We didn't want it to be just some guy wearing a mask like Jason or Michael, where you couldn't see any emotion. We wanted to see this. What would it be like with a human being behind that mask that's dealing with whatever's going on, and the reaction. And like you said, because the face was covered, Only thing that could tell you that was either my eyebrows or my eyes themselves. And we tried to make it so it was like everything that he was looking at, he was actually looking at. Like it was part of, like that was the character that he was taking notice of when they were speaking to him. So it wasn't like he was looking off to somebody else while somebody else was talking to him. Even the gun in the first part, he looks at the gun, like almost like the gun's talking to him, and he's eyeing down the gun. So that was like, it was all deliberate. So I hope people recognize that, like you did.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was really impressed. I'm like, this is cool. We get this, and really, I think as much as I was impressed with the Omicron Killer, I mean, I was really impressed with that. What really struck me was the fact that you were not afraid to throw a little bit of humor into it. I think there's too much of those, the guys come out there and they got to be, imposing and ruthless and no mercy and, just one note. You were not afraid to let your character have a shine for a moment with some other folks without ruining the picture. There's a scene that is, when people see it, it's sort of like it's a really interesting, fun scene out in the cemetery. I was most impressed with that because it was like, because a lot of people in your shoes would not have allowed them to be put in that position, to be, to have people like, crack up at, even though it was important in the movie to have a light moment. I was really impressed with the fact that you were not afraid to do that. You're like, okay, I can have a little bit of fun here, even though I'm a ruthless killer. We still can have a moment, and you just don't see that very often, Shadow. You just don't see it.
Well, again, we were trying to make it realistic, and we didn't want to overdo it. And I told Jeff as we were directing it, and he was telling what he wanted to see in a scene. Certain scenes I had to put my foot down with him and say, I think this will make the character look like it's just not the character. And and he agreed with me in some things we argued with. I mean, it's just part of the collaboration of this project. But the main focus, and we both agreed on that, was this movie. We want it to be semi-realistic. Like it could actually happen. Like we had, like you said, comedy, all kinds of things, because that's real life. Sometimes people are uncomfortable in a scene, not a scene, but realistic situation. And then they end up telling a joke and it might seem out of place. Well, that's real. And that's what the whole thing of this movie was just making sure that when people looked at this, they weren't saying, oh, just another Jason or another Michael Myers, but there's actually a story behind it. It's not just somebody just going around killing random people. It has a whole plot and a moral to this story that if you pick it up, great. I'm not going to tell you. I want you to find out for yourself. If you got to watch the movie 5 times to figure it out, okay. More power to us, because that means more ticket sales. But in reality, I'm joking about that. But in reality, some people have to watch it more than once because they're not going to pick up on it right away.
Sure. And what's really cool about this film, I'm going to go with if you don't mind, do you go by Paugh or do you go by Shadow? Because I'm sort of like digging the Shadow part.
You said my name right, the first one, right? But mostly I go by Shadow because people butcher my first name, and it's easier if they just call me Shadow. You can call me, as long as you call my first name correctly, I don't mind you using it. But most people just say Shadow, and I'm real comfortable with that.
Okay. Besides, Shadow's that's do you know who the Shadow is?
Yeah, I had to put up with that my whole life. So.
Oh my God. Well, that's not a bad thing to put up with. I mean, I wish people would have called me the Shadow.
I wasn't always 6'6". Okay, I wasn't always a mountain of a man. So when I was growing up, people would always bring it up, and I'm like, oh, okay, you're so clever. It's like I haven't heard this before. And I'm sure other people with other names that are similar to things that are famous or synonymous with their name, they put up with it too, and they understand what I was like, oh, come on. I mean, really?
Right.
I thought in my age of now, I wouldn't hear about it, but it's been ongoing since I was a kid.
I grew up listening to the show and reading the books and collecting comics. It's one of my favorite heroes, and probably the inspiration for Batman. So it's always a near and dear to my heart. Um,
I
you're
don't
you're
mind when somebody
into
brings that up when it's something that it's something like it's positive. Yeah, go for it,
oh
But
yeah.
a lot of people are snarky and they just want that cheap joke and they want to throw you under a bus and think it's okay to make you look like the punk. And it's like, not this guy.
Oh my gosh, no. Listen, anybody makes fun of Lamont Cranston in that character, you let me know and I'll ride and die with you over that. I think it's one of the great characters ever created.
Well, thank
And that's important. It's important to have a good character. You created your character and you put a lot of time and thought into it. And you don't want anybody just to come up there and just poke fun at it. You worked hard at it, to be creative and to make it come to life. So yeah. Now I'm looking at your before we get into this, I'm looking at your body of work here, and I gotta tell you, it is one of the most impressive there is. And now you obviously, it's obvious that you're in demand. People have your phone number on speed dial because you've appeared in some really some hella good movies. Whether you're playing an assassin, a bodyguard, a henchman, those are all roles that you don't think too much of, but then when you start seeing your name on every single damn big movie, you realize that people like Shadow. He's there on time, he's dependable, he looks the part, he's ready. You've earned that, that's for sure.
Well, that's one thing I pride myself on is that I come to work. I come to work. I mean, I'll play, but once it says action, whatever my character is supposed to be, I click into that right away. It doesn't take me, it takes me no time. Ask my director if you ever get to talk to Jeff.
Chris told us
Most of the cast were like, "Wow, he really clicks in quick." Like he seems like I got the nice guy thing, but then when it was time to be the mean bad guy, I was right there.
yeah, Chris Lazaro was talking to me about that. He says, yeah, says as soon as they said cut, he was there. It says, is it when it wasn't, when they weren't shooting, you come up there and just talk to them. But the minute they said cut, yeah, you probably want to just go ahead and go on the other side of the set because he's in the zone. And again, it's a compliment. It's a compliment. It's like he's ready to roll. He's ready to go. He's ready to put his whole self into the role. But before we get more into that, I definitely, because your background's got to be fascinating. I want to go back and do that. Um, I want to know how you got your start in the business. I mean, did you start off as an actor, or did you come up more as an athlete, or maybe work in clubs?
Well, it's complicated. I
Take your time.
well, I was born in D.C. and I grew up kind of shy, quiet guy. Didn't really talk much to anybody unless it was necessary. Teachers, even if they asked me a question directly, did I answer anything? Otherwise, I just did what I had to do in class. But I was always interested in acting. I did some plays, but I was always like behind, not the forefront of it. But when we had an issue, in 9/11 happened, and I was walking the streets of New York afterwards, and I happened upon somebody filming an indie film. And I'm like, I need something to do. So I said, what are you guys doing? And they told me. I said, well, do you need a big guy? And they're like, yeah. I said, well, I'm a big guy. So they put me in, and they had a part that they could put me in. So that's what they did. And after that, I started looking for things to be more involved in TV shows first. And then I got into movies. I didn't have a plan. I just figured whenever I could find that fit the role, like I was on Backstage or some of these other publications that talked about what they were looking for. And I just put myself out there and said, I'm going to show up. And that's one thing. Like I did a TV show called Deception. And I wasn't supposed to be one of the main characters. I was supposed to be background. And some guy didn't show up. Somebody who went through the audition, went through the callbacks, went against other people who also did all that, and then he doesn't show.
Oh,
And I said, So when they came up to me, they're like, Shadow, do you do lines? And this movie's about drugs. This TV show's about drugs. So I'm thinking, lines? No, I don't do drugs. And the guy starts laughing.
Right,
And he
right.
goes, I mean, do you act? And I said, well, that's what I'm starting to do. I'm trying to learn all this, and I'm getting there. But yeah, I can speak lines. Yeah, I can do that. So he goes, okay, you got half an hour. Learn this. If you do right, I'll put you in. And just luck, man. I mean, I didn't audition for this. I mean, technically I did, but I don't know if he would have just given it to somebody else or what would have happened, or but I got in it, and that was all she wrote. And once that started happening and I started getting that I could actually speak instead of just standing there, I got a lot more other roles. But my hardcore is just getting roles of just being the big guy, because they do not think we can act. They just, for some reason, I think Ben Affleck's the tallest actor who's allowed to, get big roles, but most of us will never see it. We just are in the background. We might get a few words, but not much. And anyway, so what happened was I just, after 9/11, I found that, and then I started doing more and more. Then I hooked up with somebody who knew a couple other movie things, and were casting directors, and they brought me in, and they liked me, and they showed me to the directors, and the directors picked me. Like you said, I had one director who wrote me into his film because he liked what I did and my size and everything else. He goes, you're not I want authentic characters, but because you don't fit any of the characters I have, I made a character for you into my film so you can be in it, because he liked it so much.
Again, a sign of respect.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, I don't have to be picked for everything, but it's nice when you do get picked. It's like, okay, somebody sees your skill, they want you to be part of it. It's like you're not just a lump on the log, right?
No. Well, I'm looking at the movies that you have been in, and on it, it'll sit there and say, played an assassin, non-credited, or no lines. But the fact of the matter is that one or two people could pop up in a movie like that, but you have popped up in a lot of movies like that, which again, it's it tells me that directors like, well, we need a big guy, we need an imposing guy, we need someone who's dependable, who knows what's going on, and they call you, and you're there, you're in front of the camera. Yeah, it's maybe there's lines, maybe there's not. I don't, but the fact of the matter is that you're there, and you're on camera, and you're on the screen, and and it's like, oh, I know that guy, know. And
I've gone around the world, and people have seen me and go, hey, weren't you in this? I'm like, yeah. And there's a few movies that it's not me, but the character looks exactly like me, and I auditioned for that role. And I'm like, wow, they liked me enough that they copied my look, but gave it to a bigger actor, somebody who's, way more known in the business than me. I understand that. I mean, I don't agree with it, but I understand it.
Right.
Another thing, like you said, is a lot of directors work with me. They know I'm dependable, they know I'm reliable, and they know that I'm no nonsense. I'll come to do the job. And I think that's the biggest part, is that they know what they're getting from me is quality work, because I'm giving them what they want. They tell me what they want. I give them what they say. I don't just do it my way.
Right. What do you, I mean, on the surface, it doesn't seem like there's very much to go into it. But we both know that's not true. We both know that even when you're there, okay, we want you to play. We're gonna make you, Mr. Jones. You're gonna make you his henchman, and you gotta have the look, you gotta have the style, the charisma to do all that while just standing in one place. That's acting.
Well, you also have to see the characters I've done, like Gotham. I had to create that character. I couldn't just show up and just sit there. I had to create what that character was. So when somebody looked at it, they're like, oh, there's more to it than him just sitting and being in that position there. He's actually playing a role, even though he's not speaking any lines. Like I had to come up with a character. They asked me to do this. It was like 500 people. They only picked 5 of us. They gave us a prop and said, create a character from this, and we'll pick you from that. And so they gave me a stuffed dog. and my character is supposed to be a guy who the dog talks to him. And so in the scene, if you watch Gotham, when we're in the asylum, Arkham Asylum, you see the stuffed animal across from me playing chess, beating me while it's also doing a crossword puzzle. You know, there's a lot that says a lot. It's not just, the guy sitting there. So then later, when you see my scene where I'm talking to Gordon, well, Gordon's talking to me because I don't speak, and he says things to me. Now you get an idea that this dog is telling him what to do. And when you see my reaction to Gordon talking to me and you see what happens, then you're like, okay, it's way more than just some guy showing up. And I don't want to just show up. I want to have I create the character, even if he's not talking.
Now, in a situation like that, with your body of work and your dependability and whatnot, is it? I mean, I've asked this question before from actors. Sometimes I'll sit there and say, maybe someone who's doing a background or whatnot, and you do an excellent job. Isn't it okay? Is it okay to just ask for one or two lines? I mean, can you sit there and say, I could do more than this? I could say something, or would it help? Would that help out the scene a little bit if I said, like the dog's checkmating me and I go damn or something like that? Is it protocol to be able to go up there and basically campaign for a line?
I don't agree with that. The writers wrote it for a reason. You respect the writers. You respect the director. You know your role. Your role is to do this. There's too many people I've worked with who thought they could put in something. And once in a while, a director who's not really confident in their own work will let them do that, which I think is a disservice to, again, the writers and everybody else. And, if you're a narcissist, you need to stay out of the thing, because this work is not about you. It's about the audience. It's about the people that work with you. Everybody's paycheck relies on you doing what you're supposed to do and not be a conceited ass and trying to be, look at me, look at me. You're already there. You don't need any more. Look at me, look at me. They already got you. And if they really want you, they will come up with something. Let them come up with it. If you come up with something, sometimes, like indie films is different. With me and Jeff, we collaborated. But when it comes to Hollywood films, look, you want to keep working, I don't suggest you put your 2 cents in unless they ask.
Yeah, independent is different. I mean, you get more leeway for that. I just feel like, for someone like yourself who's put in the work. I mean, you have put in the work. You're there. You're ready to rock, and we already established that. To me, it's not like you just coming on the set for the first time. You've done this for a while, and I just feel like sometimes when an actor like yourself comes on, what's it going to cost? One extra line. What's it going to cost in the bigger scheme of things? It's not going to cost a
Depends on
studio.
Depends on the budget. It depends on the budget and the production. I mean, I've had directors come to me like, okay, in indie films, I do a lot of them because I like doing indie films. I like working with directors, especially new directors, people who want to get out there. I like trying to help them with my work. Okay. So we collaborate, we talk. Okay. Like Endangered. He let me create my character. I grew out my beard. I had not as much hair as I did in the Omicron Killer. I wore a cap. I wore the certain jacket. I created the whole thing. And then I created the accent that I put into it. And at first the director's like, well, I wasn't sure about it. But then after you started doing it, I really loved what you did, and we kept it. And we already talked about it. Like, I didn't just come in like that. I said, I would like to do this. What do you think? Now, if he told me no, I'm a professional. I respect that. I'll give him what he wants. At the same time, this is what, from reading the work, so I'm actually doing the work too, because I'm reading the whole script. I want to know what it's about. And I formulate a character inside my head of what this character should sound like, walk like. Does he have a limp? Does he lean to the side? Does he stutter? Whatever it is. And most actors do this. I'm not the only one. I'm not like the monolith of this. But that's what I do with indies. Now, higher up films, I've worked at Hollywood films. If the director comes up to me and says, hey, Shadow, what do you think? Then I put in my 2 cents. No problem. But if he says, look, I just want you to do A, B, and C, I do A, B, and C. If it didn't
Right.
work, and then he comes to me, and I've had that happen, do A, B, and C, do what they say first, then let them come to you and see if they have any suggestions or ask you for suggestions. What do you think? What did you think about what just happened here? Some of them do it, and some of them don't want to hear from you. They have their own egos, and let them have it. It's like, how's it going to hurt you? Because in the end, yeah, they might say, oh, that actor was bad. Well, it was based on the director and the editor, mostly. My acting, I gave what I gave, but if they didn't put the camera where they needed to put it, if they didn't tell other people to do what they did, they didn't direct me to do the things I was doing. If I just try to do it on my own, I can't see what I'm doing sometimes. I don't know what my facial expression looks like. So I have to rely on them, and I have to respect that they know what they're doing. And I can't have my ego think I know everything. I don't know what their vision is. I can't be speaking for them. Now, again, sometimes you put in your 2 cents, but more times than not, let them do their job first. And then if they ask you, then say something. And it won't hurt. I mean,
No.
if you do put your 2 cents in and they didn't want it, they can kick you off. Would that work for you? You can get thrown off the set. I've seen it happen.
What people for making suggestions when they weren't asked for?
Especially people with no lines. Yeah, like, dude, you think you're not replaceable? Now, excuse me, I don't want to curse, but get out of here with that. There's so many people trying to be just that guy standing and raking the leaves in the thing and not saying a word because he or she just wants to be in the film.
Right.
You can be replaced quickly if you push it too much.
We have some people in the chat that are talking. Our friend Betty J. Gathers is here, and thank you for welcoming everybody in. I appreciate that. Your neighbor Ivan is here. It says, "Hey, Paugh, stop stealing my chickens from my yard." He's saying, "Hey, Cheetah, Paugh is really cool. He's my neighbor, but he keeps stealing my chickens. My family's got to eat too."
I think that's just a joke. I don't know anybody with chickens, and not after I had them, so they're gone anyway, right?
Ivan Baltos.
Oh, Ivan. Oh, okay, Ivan. Okay, never mind. That's one of the characters of the film. He's a comic. He likes to throw in a couple jokes.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit safe today since he's far away. How many people have you ever had anybody just like scared to approach you, like any directors? Have they ever like send like the assistant over to talk to you, like, yeah, go ask him what he wants, or tell him to do this, or
Yeah.
have you ever intimidated a director where they've like, PA,
Well, the ones where they didn't see my my casting, that the casting director just picked me and they didn't get to know me. Yeah, I've had a few of those. And then I've had one say, I didn't know what to expect when I started talking to you, but you're not the guy I thought you were. And he goes, I was afraid of you. And he goes, I thought if I saw you in a dark alley, there's no way I'd be in that dark alley across the street. And it's okay, but it hurts my feelings because I'm not a mean guy unless you want me to be. If you come with that smoke, you'll get it. But usually if you come to me like a normal human being, I'm good with you. I don't like to judge people. I know, I understand people have differences in life and no one asked to be born in the body they are, including me. And so I normally would come off very friendly unless you come out nasty to me first. And then then now it depends. Like, what side do you want to see? That basically is what I'm saying. If you want to see the nice guy, you get that. If you want to see the nasty guy, keep pushing that button, see what happens.
So do people try to get you into that mode? Like, okay, because sometimes they say that, like someone's trying to cry or someone's trying to show emotion and or laughter, and they're trying to get that person to that place, and maybe they're struggling a little bit. Has anybody ever made that mistake of going over there and trying to get you into different modes
No.
without giving you a chance? Yeah, I didn't think
I've never needed it. I mean, not bragging or anything. I have my emotions and I know how to click them in. Again, if you just talk to if you talk to the people from John Wick, you talk to the people from the Omicron Killer or the COVID Killer, if you talk to people from Endangered, if you talk to people from Gotham, if you talk to people from Power. When I worked with 50 Cent, 50 Cent said, Shadow, the way you do what you do, you get me into my role. He goes, he knows he struggles as an actor. At least he used to. I don't know how he is now. But when he first came out, he struggled.
Sure.
But I like to give through my performance so the other person can give me back their performance. And if I'm not giving them 100%, how do I expect them to give me 100? So, yeah, 50 Cent was one of my favorite people to work with, actually.
He seems like a pretty nice guy. I've known his career. Huh?
Don't cross him. Don't try to get on his bad side either, because 50 has a mean streak. I thought I had a mean streak. 50's not one to play with. If you say something cross to him, he'll gun you down with his words. No pun intended.
I actually, I'll tell you the truth. I do know there is a secret way to stop him in his tracks, and that is to throw him a ball, and that'll end any and all heat coming from 50 Cent.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Did you ever see him throw out a first pitch?
Oh yeah, that was not the best.
Yeah, that's all you have to do. All you have to do is asking to play catch. I'm sure he'll be out of anything right there. All right, we're good. But in all seriousness, he has worked really hard on his acting, and he's gotten better. He's gotten better. Yeah, for sure.
I liked the fact that, again, when I met him, there was lots of stories about him, but I didn't come to the set thinking, oh, this is how he is. I let him show me how he is. And he showed me that, he was cool with me. So I'm good with him.
Sure.
I would work on, if he brought me back for his other projects, I would work with him in a second, just because they always took good care of me on that show. They took such great care of me, and all the people who were on the show that I worked with were awesome. I didn't have a problem with anybody. That was one of the few shows that nobody rubbed me the wrong way while I was doing the show. So I had a blast with them, man. I worked 5 out of 6 seasons with them, and I was the only non-essential character that didn't get killed. It's not so bad, right? So you knew they liked it because they kept bringing me back.
That's amazing. What do you feel about working on series like that? I mean, do you look at it as just work? But what do you feel about like working on a series or a movie where it is showing like criminal activity or violence, heavy violence? I mean, I know you're not a prude or anything like that, but what is it like working long term on a series like that? Does it wear on you? Do people get worn down by the script and the action of the series? Okay, we're going to kill Joe this week. Next week we're going to kill Maria. Does that sort of wear on you? Knowing that it's going to happen, like a character is going to die or something's going to happen to him.
If I like working with the character, like, okay, I worked with 50 Cent, and he said goodbye to me on the last show that he was doing. I was bummed out by that. But nothing felt like work. For me, acting is not work for me, except I got to remember my lines and all that. But when it comes down to it, I'm having a great time. I'm working with people who, if they respect me and they do their job, I'm having a blast. I don't mind how many hours. I could put in 15 hours. The Omicron Killer, we did 15-hour days, 30 days in a row. And then I went and worked on another film in between at the same time, because I had 2 days that I wasn't working, but then I went and did 2 more days on another film, and those were 15-day shoots. I love working. So to me, I don't consider it work. That's the situation for me. Other people, they'll come in and they'll be like 2 hours in. Like what? Well,
wow.
No film's over 2 hours. Why aren't we done yet? I'm like, you do not understand the business. You shouldn't be here. First off, if you're complaining and you got somewhere else to go, this isn't for you. You're just doing this as like something just to do. but this isn't for you. This is not your vocation, or that's not even your, like I said, not even your vocation, not even just a job, but you got to want to do it. And if you go at 2 hours in, now bad production might make you feel that way, but too many times I'm like, how are you wanting to go home? Look who you're around. I worked with Forrest Whitaker. I worked with Chris Rock. I worked with so many people. Lucy Liu. I worked with. I just worked with a lot of famous people. How can you? I wouldn't get tired of that. Now I'm not up there asking for autographs or anything like that either. I just want to work with somebody whose work I respect anyway. So working with them is not work for me. It's learning, like how can I gain some knowledge of what their task, what their craft is. I'm gaining something from that without being in a classroom paying for it. And I don't believe in paying like for acting classes. I know a lot of people, especially acting coaches, are upset with me saying that, but you got to be on set to really get what you're supposed to do. Doing it in a class is fine, but it's nothing. It was nothing like actually being on set. It just was different. And you had to be able to click in. If you couldn't, they're not filming you anymore. You might be sitting there still for whatever hours, and maybe that's why people are bored. But for me, the camera was on me, and they were talking to me, and they were like, "Hey, Shadow, da 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 da." And a lot of directors would talk to me directly, call me Shadow, and they wouldn't know anybody else's name. And I'm not the main character. I'm just either under five, or maybe I have co-star, or maybe guest star or something, or maybe I'm just extra. But they always called me, very respectful to me, and they knew who I was. And it's just like you said, you gotta want to be in that scenario. You can't say, I want to go to a party. That you can party later, man.
Yeah.
And if you make friends with these people, some of these people you can party with. You don't have to do it by yourself. So I don't understand the mindset of some of the people that are in the business saying they want it. They don't really want it. They just want to be famous without putting in the work. And I've dealt with a lot of those people.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. I don't know what that is. People try to get on that gravy train without putting in the work. It never works. It never does. Let's see. Mr. Jackal is here. Greetings. When you love what you're doing, it doesn't feel like work. Absolutely.
I know that sounds great, but she's right.
He says, wait, is he wearing the Omicron Killer t-shirt?
Absolutely.
Oh, all right. So let's talk a little bit about the Omicron Killer. We need to talk about that because not only are you the Omicron Killer, but this movie has a history. The Omicron Killer was not the first time that you played the killer.
No.
So you first played him in the COVID Killer back in 2021. So let's talk about that. Now, was the creation of the film, was Omicron or the COVID Killer, was that your creation or no?
The COVID Killer was the creation of Jeff and some other people that he was working with, and that didn't work out. And the way Jeff had a good vision, but the people he was working with they're obtuse. They have no insight on creativity or expanding something where it's not just linear. It had multiple things coming to it. And I added to that. It was like, okay, we got one killer. That's boring. We have never seen, well, I guess there has been a couple things where they had twins who were bad guys, but you never saw Puerto Rican twin serial killers. So we added that. The original script was basically a copy of Nighthawks. And nothing against Sylvester Stallone, but that's not one of his best pieces of work.
No.
And you thought Nighthawks was not very interesting. This was even less. It was more bland than that. So I was talking to Jeff and I said, look, we should have twins. The one guy, he loses his wife. The other one is helping his twin brother kill other people. And they're serial killers now because of his wife's death from COVID. And he goes after nurses and strippers. But now we also add in the copycat killer, which isn't really the copycat killer because he doesn't do the kills just like the other guy, but
Right, right.
he can stuff. It's a joke to the point. It's not a parody. This was not a parody, but it did have a joke against media that they do this. They go in and sensationalize something and give it a name, and they brand it so they can keep selling their news and having people watch the news. So we said, okay, so we have these two killers. Now we have our copycat killer, and he's going to go and kill the people that the other two are supposed to kill before they kill him, because
That
he's
was a
like,
really unique twist, by the way. That was a hell of a twist.
and I, Jeff and I,
Could you
and Jeff
imagine Jason sitting there looking? I mean, could you imagine Jason sitting there? He's looking at the list of people he wants to kill. The next thing he goes over and he sees you doing it.
right?
I mean,
and that was the whole thing. It was like trying to upset them too, right? And then I don't want to ruin that film if nobody's seen it. Yeah, it was real low budget. Okay, calm down. You still, there's a really good story and a twist into it. I don't want to ruin that, but in the long run, I deal with them. They're trying to deal with their situation, and they're going after the cop, so that is chasing after them. Then you have all these other little things going on, and you start to piece together, oh, that's why those people were killed. Oh, that's why he went after them. Oh, it wasn't just random. It looks random until you start piecing everything together. And that created the Omicron Killer, which was based off, some of it was based off what actually happened to me during COVID when I got injured in my leg and I was in the hospital. So the whole scenario about the hospital thing, a lot of that happened, maybe not at the exact, the exact way that it happened in the movie, but the premise of what happened actually happened. And we took that and we took things that me and Jeff have seen in reality of how people get treated and what would happen if this person just said, enough's enough. And that's how we created the Omicron Killer. And the guy, I don't want to ruin the movies. You got to see the first scenes. The first two scenes I loved because we created the fight scene right then. And the people who worked with me, Chris that you interviewed before, and then the two other guys that worked with me on that film, they did such a great job for people who it was like spur of the moment how we were going to do it. And we put it together, and it looks, I think, it's one of my favorite scenes. Every time I watch it, I'm like, yes, that's my favorite scene in the whole movie.
Is that your favorite? Yes, that's your favorite scene. I'll tell you what my favorite scene in it, and I talked to Chris about this, and I'll talk to Jeff about it too when he comes on here. I think my most singular favorite moment in this film, well, there's two moments, but the one singular moment I really enjoyed in that film is when you're in the hospital and Nurse Nancy comes over and she is so compassionate towards you. Even knowing that you're a wanted killer, but her actions towards you and her leaning over and touching, it's small scenes like that people don't look at. And I thought it was an amazing piece of acting. I really was. I really did. I thought it was beautifully done.
Look at also the reaction I gave from what she gave.
Yeah.
Right? I could have just sat there and did nothing and not give any kind of facial expression or anything. I'm not talking, but again, what you said before, the facial expressions, I think, give her part a bigger part too, because she's reacting to my facial expressions. She wasn't just giving lines. That was real emotion from her.
Yes. That's it's an amazing scene.
When she's given a chance to really act, she'll surprise you. When she's not trying to be crazy, she's just doing her thing and really feeding off what's going on in the scenario, in the scene. Her acting is really, really good. I've always liked her. That's why we picked her, is because I've always liked her acting. I've always, when she was in, what was it, Red Square?
She's been in The Crow.
Well,
Uh,
Pro was one of her first movies. But when she did Red Square, that was one of her big time uh, breakthroughs, I think, because she was one of the main characters. I think, right? She
right.
had a line. She worked with Richard Gere. That was phenomenal. And ever since I saw that, I was like, I need to work with Bai Ling. And I've seen her in other things, but I
Sure.
knew she had those chops there, and I was like, she can really bring something to this table. And we already, from what we wanted, we already have her for sequels in other films that we have because of that. So
Yeah.
she's not just a one trick pony here. She's part of the franchise that we want to grow with.
Yeah. Jeff commented on that when I was writing my review for the film. And I had put down like Nancy had met her unfortunate end, and he goes, not so fast, not so fast. He didn't kill her. He didn't kill her. I'm like, oh, okay, that's awesome. Um, because there's another scene like that, and it reminded me of that. It was from a movie called Insomnia with Al Pacino, and
Mm,
Al Pacino plays a cop. He's up in Alaska. He's trying to solve this murder, and they're examining the victim on the table, and she's laid out there, and they're all talking about the case. And then you see Al Pacino very gently, he just brushes her hair. If you don't not looking for it, it'll pass you by. But if you
right.
catch it, it's one of the more powerful moments of the movie. And I felt for a slasher film to see that kind of unexpectedness, you don't expect that to see that in a movie like that. And then your eyes, I mean, you're looking at her like that is so no one has ever shown me kindness like that before.
You picked
And
up on.
it was a beautiful piece of acting by both of you. Now my question was that improv or was that actually scripted?
Uh, I don't remember. I mean, most
It
of it was scripted, right? I think they let Jeff let that part keep going because of the like a lot of good directors do. I think they see that the two characters are interacting with each other, and good actors will continue to go and work off each other until they hear cut. And if they got good improv and everything else, sometimes I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes you'll get somebody who will be like, "Are we done?" And like, "No, what are you doing?" But she didn't do that. That's how I like her professionalism, because she kept in character the whole time. She didn't break character until we got done, and the director said cut, and she continued to do what she was doing and went with it with me, and it was magical to me. I mean, I really felt connected to her, and not just some actress working with me. I just felt like if I was really that guy and she was really that nurse, this was a touching moment,
it
and
really
it
was.
really would make a difference to this guy's life to have somebody talk to him with some kind of dignity for a change.
Um, it's just small moments, and especially it's because people don't look for that in a movie like The Omicron Killer. They're looking for inventive kills and gore and all that other stuff, and it's like, and especially especially with a great cast. Your cast is stellar. You had Felissa Rose, a legend. Lynn Lowry, who was absolutely hilarious as her as
Lynn
Captain Callahan.
Lynn
And of
brought it.
course,
Lynn
oh
brought
yeah,
it. I mean,
she had me laughing. She was just her whole demeanor was like, oh, she's just rocking it. And Felicia too, Felicia Rose. I kept on saying one of these days we're gonna get her because up to this. Oh, okay, I'm gonna feel really bad saying this, I've been honest so far. So up to this year, Paul, I had never seen a Felicia Rose movie.
what? Come on. All right, so here's another person who I've seen her body of work, okay? And I wanted to give her some more screen time and chops. And again, talk about professional. She came and brought that character to life. And it wasn't like, I don't want to mention other films she's in because I don't want to disparage anybody. It's not my place to do that. But she's been in other films. It's like that was maybe a cameo. Looked like a background with, who asked for a couple lines, like you were saying. That's not, for me, that's not representing Felissa and not showing what a strong woman she is and what a fantastic human being she is. And even if she can be evil, she's still fantastic, right? And that's, again, when I talked to Jeff, I was like, dude, we're not this woke nonsense. These are real women who I've known for years that are strong women, and they need to show that in the film. And not a lot of films will ever do that, especially horror films. Are you kidding me?
No.
We brought 3 strong women, and they had 3 strong female roles, as well as the other women that were in the film. But I'm talking about, the people that most of us already know. Larissa Dally, she's really good, man. And if you haven't seen other things of hers, you need to start looking at her other projects. She so professional with me. When I asked her to do things, she just sucked it up and did it. She didn't whine about it. She wasn't feeling well. I said, look, if we can get through this, you don't have to be here anymore. We just need to get through this, because if we don't, then it's going to drag on, and it's going to be worse. I think it's not going to let you, we're going to have to figure out how to get you healthy. And she wasn't like on her deathbed. I wouldn't do that to somebody, but she just wasn't feeling well. And I said, can you do it? And she did it. She didn't have to. She could have said, Shadow, I'm sick. I can't do this. And I would have respected that. At the same time, I had to ask, because it's like, I don't know how sick the person is. They have to let me know. And I've done that in all my films that I worked on. I've had somebody, tell me, hey, Shadow, I don't feel good. Hey, let's get you whatever you need to feel good. But also I ask, are you able to push through another hour or something? Are you able to do whatever? Not being sick, just putting in the hours. But if we get through it, that's, the part. It's not about us again. It's about the person who's going to see this film. I got pink eye in a film, and I worked through that because my character was turned into a zombie. So I just used that. And then people were like, oh, that makeup job's bad. I'm like, that was real. Are you kidding me? Even this film, I went through a door. If you remember one of the scenes, I go through a door. Yeah. I actually cut my hand open because I went through the door. It wasn't it wasn't one of these breakable doors. It was a real door. So I don't ask from anybody that I wouldn't do myself as well. It's like, if I don't put anybody in jeopardy. If I think it's dangerous, we're not doing it. Safety first. At the same time, I will ask you, do you feel comfortable? And if you say, yay, let's do it. And she was one of those that said, I can do this. And then she was fine, and we did the scene, and just, it came out great. And like I said, she's one of the toughest people I know. And she really likes doing the job. So she's great. I mean, just I don't know how else to say it, but same with Felissa, same with especially Lynn. Man, Lynn was just killing it in this. And then Bai Ling also, they just all brought it. And not to say the other actors didn't. Rob Emmer, he put up with me grabbing him for real. And Jeff, when I fought Jeff, I mean, that was realistic as much as we can, without hurting each other.
Right.
When I fought the 3 guys, that was all realistic. The scene where I attack the news people, that was pretty realistic, and if you watch it, you'll see why. And they just all it was.
I thought the scenes with the kids was pretty realistic.
The kids, I mean, they didn't complain. They brought themselves for as their age that they are. I was shocked. I was like hoping.
That's such a cool scene.
For the best, and we got it. Because
I absolutely love that scene. That's the one I was talking to you about earlier.
Right.
That was, to me, that's just what a great guy you were. I mean, seriously, like I said before, a lot of actors would not put themselves into that position. They just wouldn't do it. Their ego wouldn't let them do it.
Exactly. And Jeff and I talked about that. Jeff talks to me just like I talk to the other actors. And he's like, Shadow, can you do this? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Let's make it happen. Because I thought, just like Jeff did, that it would bring a little bit more humanistic and realistic integrity to the film.
Yeah, and it did, and it did. And now we're going to slide over to the producing part of this, because you also produce this film, and what I really appreciate, because we talk about this a lot. This is another subject, not only during Eight Questions With, but when we talk about horror movies in general. There's one thing that us horror fans get more frustrated with than probably just about anything else, and that is the utter utilization of our actors. I mean, when Lynn Lowry's on there for a scene, or Felicia Rose is on there for a scene, or Bai Ling's on there for one scene, and yet on the box there it is: Felicia Rose, Lynn Lowry, Bai Ling, and they're in there for one 30-second scene. I cannot tell you, and I'm believing I'm speaking for a lot of people here. We cannot tell you how frustrating that is as a horror fan. I don't want to buy a movie with Lynn Lowry in it for 60 seconds. I'm not going to be sitting there. I'm not going to remember the film. I'm not going to talk kindly about the film. It's just not. I'm going to be barking about it, because it's always. I mentioned about cursing earlier. Don't worry about it, because I'm fucking tired. I'm tired of that. I'm fucking tired of that. I love it when that's really one of the things that really impressed me about the Omicron Killer, is that you let the ladies have their each of them have their big moment. And a lot of movies just don't do that. A lot of independent movies, they get them there for a day or whatever, and it's like, dude, if you gotta take it back to formula. Come up with something, for these ladies to do. Don't just come in there and go like, hey, I'm here, and then they're out off into the sunset.
Right.
It's frustrating. Now I understand.
It's a bad trick that some producers try on the audience, and I am disgusted by it as well. It's like, if you bring them in and you say they're part of the film, they better be part of the film, not just, hey, look, just to get butts in the seat, as I would put it.
Right. How did you how did you guys you and Jeff come together and advance the because it's Omicron Killer a direct sequel, or is it a remake from the COVID Killer?
Oh, it's a sequel.
Oh, it is a sequel.
Yeah, it is a sequel. Like when we first made COVID Killer, I didn't have any part of it. I didn't know about it. I wasn't doing anything with it. Jeff calls me one day. Jeff and I barely knew each other. We worked on something else together, but we weren't like we are now, where we talk. When we need to, we talk. I've talked to him more in the past 2 years than I did the first 4 years I supposedly knew him. But he calls me up, and he knew I was a big guy, and he wanted a big guy. He wanted somebody intimidating in the film, and he knew from another film that I did and other work that I did that I brought that. And then he goes to me, we need to fix this film. And he told me what it was like. And I was like, dude, we really need to. I'm not trying to upset anybody, but tough if they don't take it as that they should have done better work with Jeff. But he contacts me, and we start jawboxing about it. And we come up with some scenarios, and finally we came up with the one we did, where it was the two twin brothers, Puerto Rican serial killers, based off what happened to the one brother's wife. And then we added, I said, we need another twist. We need something else. Otherwise, this is boring. And so we came up with the Copycat Killer, and that was it for that. But then when we made the Omicron Killer, we already knew we wanted a sequel to COVID Killer. We just had to make sure that COVID Killer sold. And it was hard, because raising only $1,500 to put the first film in, because it was during COVID, we didn't have the ability to get red cams. We didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have any actors except for me. Not a lot of other actors were actually actors. They were just people we knew. We couldn't get a hold of other actors because of the whole COVID issue. And, you weren't allowed outside, and a lot of other things that made this a very hard film to make, but we made it. We didn't have an editor. Jeff edited it himself. We did find a sound guy who helped us.
Where was the film? Where did you film at?
New York City, mostly. Also in upper Bronx, like in Yonkers.
Okay.
So that was most of where we filmed. We also did film up in Amsterdam, New York. That's where Jeff's from. And then most of the Omicron Killer was filmed in Amsterdam and New York City as well. So we did both places because, well, one, Jeff's from up there and he wanted to revitalize Amsterdam a little bit because not a lot of people know about it. One, and it's a town that needs revitalizing. So he figured if I can get this movie out there and people start going, oh, Amsterdam, okay. And he wants to make more movies from Amsterdam, not just because it's filmed in the town, but actually have Amsterdam as one of the characters of the film, basically. So I think that's that was his vision of that, and I'm with him on that. For me, I just want to do the acting right now. I don't want to do the producing of these films anymore. I've already done that. Now I want to get into doing more of the character and building this character even more. And I figure if I'm doing the producing and everything else, I don't know if I can because it's a lot of work. It really is. And
was this your first time you've ever produced anything?
No, I've produced 10 to 14 different films. But I didn't also act as much, and I didn't help write and create the characters and work with somebody as in depth as I did with Jeff on this. Me and Jeff worked a lot on this. Other directors that I've helped produce their films, I was more in the back of everything else behind the camera. I would do whatever it would take, casting or budgeting the film or catering or whatever we need to do, finding locations. But this film, I had many, many hats, just like Jeff did in this film.
What are some of the things you liked about producing? I mean, was there any aspect of it that you did enjoy of it, or was it always just a chore?
Producing?
Yeah,
I love producing, but I don't want to be trying to produce and try to act. I think that's like when the lead singer of a band tries to play the guitar, and not everybody can play the guitar and sing at the same time and give both 100%. I want to be able to give 100% whatever I'm doing. If I'm worrying about my acting, I can't pay attention to whatever the production things are needed, and something might go awry. If I'm doing the production and they need me on set, but I'm doing production stuff, that messes up the film as well, timing and everything else. I can't get into character as quickly as I would like to if I'm worrying about, and I got in my head a whole bunch of production issues.
How do you because obviously now people are seeing you as a producer, and do they come up to you and they, hey, we want you to produce this film, and do you turn around and sit there and say, is it better for you just to be a producer all by yourself, or would you rather? I mean, is that okay with you if that's all they want you for, is to be an executive producer or whatnot? I mean, or is it will always be your first choice to be in front of the camera? Like, I want to act first. I'm an actor first. I mean, because producing, sometimes I hear about independent producers. A lot of times, they're not there by choice. They're there by necessity to get the project going. It's not like I'm not really a producer, but I play one on TV. But is it just one of those things where it's like, plus you're also a victim of your own skill set. When you get things done, people notice that, and this thing they're asking you more and more to do the thing that you didn't really want to do anyway, but you just happen to be good at it. And that's a trait that they look for it.
It depends on the film. If the film calls for me to be in it, then I'd prefer to be in it. But if the film doesn't, I don't have a character that would fit me, I know when to keep myself out of a film. My ego is not that big. I mean, I don't believe in putting myself in just to put myself in. There's plenty of movies that I've worked on. I'm not acting in it at all. I produced, that's it. And I have to know my limitations, which I do. And I want what's best for the film. If I'm not the best for the film, leave me out of it. Don't put me in the camera. Put me behind it. If I do what I do really well when it comes to production. I know what I want. I know what I'm looking for. I know what my director needs. I know and whoever is on there, what they need. I help actors act. Sometimes that's my job as a producer, is to get the best acting out of the actors that are on set. It has, again, not always has something to do with me. I mean, the end product is what's the most important, right? So no, I don't have to be on camera. And most of my productions, I prefer not to, not because I don't think I can do it. I know I can pull a lot of it off, but if it calls for a 5'4" Asian girl, I don't fit that. Why would I
No,
put myself in that?
right.
Just, okay,
Right.
just like you ever see the movie Full Circle? If you haven't seen it, fine. But Slick Naeem, he made that film. He got me to understand that with his film. He's like, I love your acting, but I didn't have any place to put you. That's why he wrote me in. Now, I agreed with him. I said, if this is supposed to be authentic and you need a Spanish speaking guy who looks Spanish, that's not me. You don't feel that's me. Why would I let you put me in that?
Right.
Sometimes I have to tell a director no. It might cost me a role, but it also doesn't make me look bad by doing a role I couldn't do
No, and
or
it
couldn't
also
get
shows
the best
them too
part of
that you care about the integrity of the movie. Don't put me in a position where I'm not going to fit your film. I'd rather not work in the film rather than be on there and totally miscast. Like
Absolutely.
right. I mean I hope that they appreciate that because there's a lot of actors that will sit there and say I can make it work. I can make it work, even though they really can't. And then when
Mm.
the reviews come out, you really find out that they really couldn't because the reviews will be happy to tell you all about it.
Yeah,
Um, now,
lie because they're told if they ask you a question, say yes. Well, if you can't do it, you can't do it. Now, if you really think that you could pull it off and you learn to do it and you end up pulling it off, that's one thing. I mean, we don't know until it happens, but I'm not going to pretend to be able to fly an airplane if I can't. I mean, I'm putting other people's lives in danger. Why would I do that? Just for
right.
ego? I mean, really, if you don't deserve to be on set, if that's what you're thinking, you really
No, I
don't.
agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. It's frustrating too. There is sometimes we'll have a role, they'll have a set in a movie or whatnot, and then you'll see someone like try to fly a plane or handle a weapon or whatnot or what have you, and it comes across as just looking terrible.
Mm,
And it just doesn't look realistic at all. And you know that the person what they're doing is not right, and next thing you know, you go from being a fan to all of a sudden becoming you start nitpicking. You start pulling the movie apart. But the only reason why you're doing that is because they let you have the string, because they didn't do their due diligence. Well, let me ask you this question. Now Jeff stars in this film as well.
right.
Jeff is the one of the leads. He plays the lead cop. What was it like working with him? Here he is. He's the director. He's playing the lead role. He's the lead cop. How hard was it for him to do that role? In your opinion, do you think he did all right? I mean, and honestly speaking, do
It's
you think
fine.
that he did a great job?
Yeah, he found it hard because he had to memorize his lines, and it was hard for him to direct and memorize his lines and then be able to perform and look realistic. But he did it. But it was hard for him. He had to do many takes on some of the things. When he got real tired because he was doing multiple things at one time, it showed. And then we had to redo it. And that was all. I mean, we just made it happen. I mean, the biggest thing about this film is we didn't just give up on ourselves like a lot of filmmakers do. There's tons of films that don't get finished, they don't get completed.
Yeah.
And some of it is financial issues that come up, and some of it is just because the person couldn't persevere. They couldn't push through. They didn't really have what it took to finish a film. They're not a real filmmaker. They just want the accolade of being called the filmmaker. Jeff finishes things. I finish things. That's why he and I get along with this so much, is because we don't allow no as an answer to finish a film. We don't say, oh, well, somebody said no to this, so we're just not going to do it. We don't do that. We say, oh, all right, we got to find a way. And if it meant him directing and acting in the film and doing some other things, he did it, even though he got tired. just like me. I mean, I got tired, who doesn't? But what is the end goal? Are you going to cry about being tired, or are you going to just get it done and then sleep for a few days in a row after the film's made?
What's it like? What's it like? To get in. We talked about how you got into character, and you're in it, you're in the zone. How hard is it for you? And do you ever have any problems letting go of your characters? I mean, when it says cut, are you able to go back to being Paul, or do you find yourself hanging on to the character you're playing a little bit longer than that?
I think I just showed you that, but maybe I'm wrong. um, it's not hard for me. Excuse me. It's not hard for me to get in and out of my role because I wear my emotions on my sleeve.
Yeah.
So in real life, if something upsets me or something angers me or something causes me to be sad or something makes me be happy, you'll know it. The character doesn't, I'm not that character. At least I've never played anything that is me in a film. Um, so for me to hold on to it, it's easy to let it go because I'm not that person. I know I'm not that person, and I'm not. I don't have multiple personalities. Just because I can play another personality doesn't mean that's really me. That's called acting, and that's there's a difference between people who are lying and people who are acting. And when you know the difference, I think you can tell when somebody is holding on to a role because maybe that's who they really are. Like there's a lot of people I see acting, they're not acting. That's them. Um,
Oh,
it's like
that's
that's why
what
they seem to be the
that's
same
what
person in every role. They seem to be the same person because that's all they are. They're one note, like you talked about before.
Oh yeah, well that would explain Ryan Reynolds because oh that guy's Mr. One Note. He only knows how to play one. Yeah,
He is funny though. He might be
but he
he
plays
might
the
be one
same,
note, but he's
he's the same guy every movie. Honestly, I've only seen him act in one movie. I mean, like act.
which movie is
What
that?
the one movie that he hates, and he always made fun of it. And yet, if you go back and you watch the movie and watch him, it's the only damn movie he's ever done where he hasn't played himself. He got
And
pushed. The director pushed
which
him
movie
to
was
do
that?
it. Green Lantern.
Oh, you think that was his best role?
I think it was one of his best roles for sure
Okay.
because he got pushed. That Martin Campbell was going to just sit there and let him just do his Hannibal King shit. He wanted him to act. He wanted him to, and he does, and he did. If you go back and watch that, he's not doing any of the Deadpool shit or the Hannibal King shit or any other one note wonders he plays. He worked that movie. He had to work, and I think it's one of his better roles.
I'm not arguing with you.
Yeah.
I have to go back and look at it, but maybe you're right. I mean, he's if he wasn't as good looking as he is, I don't feel that he would do as much as he's done.
No.
He's riding on his looks more than anything else. He's funny. Don't get me wrong, a snarky, funny dude. Um,
I think someone who adapted really well and surprised the shit out of a lot of people when it came down to like, oh my God, he can really act, and he can. He really can. Was Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn was. It looked like he was going to get typecast in that old, same thing. One note wonder. It's Vince Vaughn playing himself all the time, right?
yeah,
Swing money, baby. All that. But if you go back to see some of his better roles, like Term Life or Domestic Disturbance, where he's played more Fighting with My Family. Um, he's got chops. I mean, if you didn't know it was Vince Vaughn, you wouldn't know it was Vince Vaughn because he really can act. It's just like I think some of these guys they get like you said they just get like, oh, here we go we got Ryan Reynolds or Owen Wilson. They're gonna do their thing. They're gonna sit there and improv. Bill Murray, you're gonna sit there and improv all the whole set. And what kind of performance you're going to get even before you watch the damn movie. And sure enough, here they are doing the same shtick that they've been doing for the last 20, 10, 15, 20 years. And it's like it was funny at first, but it's not so funny now. It's like it's boring. you know, and I tell you the truth. I think someone who really enjoyed their role a hell of a lot in the Omicron Killer. And we have to go back to Lynn Lowry. She had so much fun in that movie. You could tell that was a joyful performance for her. She was like, I'm sticking my teeth into this. I love this Captain Callahan character because
Mhm.
she was funny as hell.
And
You
I
know,
feel like that is one of the best roles that she's ever done. Yeah,
me
maybe,
too.
maybe I'm being a little biased because it's our film, but
She
other
was
films I've
great.
seen her in, she didn't have as much character, I felt, as she did in this. I mean, this she really got to show her acting chops.
And she still got it. You know, she still got it. Who casted the film, Paul? Who casted the Omnicron Killer? Was it you and Jeff come up to combined, or
Well, mostly Jeff and I, and then Chris helped us with finding some people that we needed for some extras and smaller roles. But the majority of the, you know, most of the actors we found ourselves. Jeff and I, mainly, like he picked up Rob Emmer because he's always liked Rob Emmer. I picked up Felissa, Eiling, and Lynn. And then some of the other people that we picked up, again, some were picked up by Chris. Um, and then the rest is like just people we know. Like Felissa had one of her friends come on set, and she killed it. She did a great job. She's the person who helps her in the cult. And Deborah is amazing. I like Deborah a lot. She was really nice to hang out with. And a majority of the people we worked with, I liked working with, not just in the movie but offset as well. We got to know each other a little bit better. Um, I would trust them to be in another film of mine and know that I'm getting quality and they're going to do what they're supposed to do. You don't always get that. And I'm really happy that we picked the right people for this film. Not everybody, we got some clowns, but as a majority of the people we picked, we are very happy with, and we would work again, no problem. There's some people I would never work again with because they're nothing but drama. And that's not what this is about. It's not about them. It's about making the film. And if you can't come to our film to make a film and you want to make it about you, or you're going to be, a problem, find the
okay?
door. I'll find somebody else. I have no problem finding somebody else and replacing you.
There are a lot of people out there that want to crack the door. Now I do know that the Omnicron Killer is leading to a sequel,
Yeah.
but I also want to know too, how are they going to bring you back, because you did not end so well.
No,
The
no,
look
no, no,
could be
no,
wrong. Could be wrong.
no, 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 no. That
Uh,
is like a Hollywood secret. We have NDAs on this one. You're not getting that out of anybody. If you do, they're in a
you're
lot of
coming
trouble.
back though. You're not
Well,
coming back.
we want, when you see this, we want you to be shocked. We want you to be like, oh, but if we already tell you, you'll be like, oh, I knew that. No, you didn't. When
No,
you
we
see
didn't.
it, you'll be
I,
like,
I,
you'll be glad that we didn't tell you. You're going to be pleasantly surprised. I call it cinematic yucks.
I do
Things.
know that. Can we talk about, because I think Jeff's already named the movie. He already mentioned about the character. I know that. Um, I think he mentioned it in here when we were talking to Chris. The character of the clown.
Yes.
Uh, d- how are, I guess, the clown's going to come in, and are
Well,
we going to get a?
going to have his separate film. It's going to be about him. And if you watch the first two films, my character has nightmares about the COVID killer and crazy clowning. And then he ends up having interactions with them. So, and that's how we build these new characters coming in, or old characters, but where it's going to expand later from watching my dream sequences.
It's hard world building a horror franchise, isn't it?
It ain't easy.
No,
Anybody who thinks it's easy,
it really isn't.
their egos out the window, because unless you have, you got to have a lot of connections. You got to have money. You got to have locations. You got to have talented people. If anybody thinks this is easy, I don't know. They had a spoon up their ass, because a silver spoon up their ass, because there's no way they can actually think this was easy. There's no way. I mean, even with money, it's there. You got to deal with egos and other characters and some character flaws in your film, and not just the actors. You also have people behind the camera, people who use they're doing the sound, even possibly editors. You got to deal with everybody's little how they feel about themselves, and you got to stroke their ego sometimes to get what you want. And sometimes I can put up with it, and other times I'm like, dude, that's too much. Goodbye, and I'll move on. Because there's even if there's somebody I like working with, I can't jeopardize the film for them, and I got to move on, and I got to find somebody who will take their part. Now, I won't just throw anybody in, but if somebody else can replace you and you're being a problem, you're replaced. And do I like doing that? No, I don't want to fire anybody, but you fired yourself when you acted crazy and were making the film a problem. Whoever it is, whoever the person might be. It doesn't have to be just the actors. It could be the catering. It could be transport. It could be a hotel who didn't know how to treat us at the hotel. We'll move to another hotel. It's like you just have to understand. I'm not trying to be egotistical and a know-it-all or a badass or anything like that. I'm trying to do what's best for the people, because everyone who's acting in this film, if they really want to be in this might be the only film they'll ever get in. You never know. But if it's a good enough film and everybody does what they're supposed to do, hopefully some of these people this is their career. I'm not messing with somebody's career. I'm not messing with somebody's money. I want everyone to be successful if they want to be successful. But they got to also remember that we all have to be successful. It's not just them. They're not on an island, right?
Right. No man is an island. Does anybody have any questions for our guest? If you have questions, okay, here's a question from Ivan. Hey, Omicron, was there anybody in the film that had never acted but surprised you? Yeah, have you ever discovered any talent yourself? Have you ever discovered somebody with some skills that nobody else knew about?
We had our DP. No, not our DP. What was it? No, not our DP. Not our DP. It was I call her. Man, I'm drawing a blank. She was helping Jeff. She was his assistant. I didn't know she could act. We needed somebody to play the role in the game shop, and she blew my mind. She blew my mind.
Yeah, she was good. She was really good.
She was. If she doesn't do acting after this, I'll be disappointed that she stopped, because I think she found something that she's really good at.
She really was.
At least in this.
That was a great scene. Intense.
Yes. And then the girl who played one of the nurses, opposite of Bai Ling, she was really good. She really brought the correct attitude, and you would think she hated me in real life, and actually we're really good friends. But you would not know that from watching the film. You would think she despised me. Her acting is really good. One of our producers gave us a really good, but I already knew about him in another film that I worked with him on. So I already had faith in his work. And he makes, I don't want to ruin it. You guys got to watch the film, but let's see. There was a lot of people in the film who surprised me, because we didn't know what to expect from them, because I've never seen them work on anything else. So Jeff and I like to give somebody, not just Lynn Lowry and Bai Ling and Felissa Rose and Rob Emmer, we like to give people who've not been out there or just starting. And then look at Larissa Daly. She's killing it now. I didn't know she could act until she worked with us. And like I said, she's a trooper. She didn't whine the whole time. She could have, it was cold. She didn't complain to us the whole time. So there's a lot of people in this film that I have total respect for, and more so because I just had no idea what to expect when they walked in, and to say I was surprised. I didn't have any expectations. Maybe that's why I was so surprised, because I didn't think, oh, this person's gonna be awesome, and then they disappointed me. But I didn't think, oh, this person's gonna be awful, and then they were great. It wasn't like that either. So, but yeah, there was some of the people really did a great job,
That's gonna
and
be the
I
fun
would
part
work with them
about
again in a heartbeat. I'd work with some of them again, or at least try to get them a job on something else.
that's gonna be the best part. I mean, there's a couple of directors that I've talked to on here, Joe Leone and oh gosh, Tremaine Hayhoe was another one. Christopher Moore is another director who just absolutely can spot talent. I mean, not only are they fine directors, but they have the eye to know, to find talent that no one really knows about and bring them onto their films. That's an amazing gift. It's not to be taken lightly, because there's a lot of directors out there, even a lot of casting directors out there, that don't always catch it. They don't always get it. And to me, especially on the indie level, they don't have that big, they don't have the Mary Jo Slaters, at their disposal. A lot of those times they're doing it by themselves. Directors will get in there and they'll look for those, that cast members by themselves. That's a lot of work. And sometimes, a lot of times they'll just fill it in just because they fit the character, 5'8", blonde hair, or 6'2", 210, and they're casting on the body type, not necessarily the talent wise. And it comes out sometimes. It comes out that way. But
Yeah.
I really appreciate when a good producer or a good director will take that time, find those actors, and next thing you know, they're coming on here and they're absolutely ruling.
Well,
Uh,
I told you I worked with Slick Naeem, right? He had Rob Morgan on his film Full Circle. Rob Morgan is a phenomenal actor. I didn't know I didn't know Rob from Adam before I met him on that film. And I love that guy. He's amazing, and his acting is killer. And Slick knew it. Slick knows who he's picking. He don't just pick anybody. Like some directors, like you said, they're like, "Oh shit, we don't have anybody." You, the guy, picking your nose and drinking a whiskey. You want to do something? And it's like, and I've had that happen to me, but I do act. But I've had a director say, "Hey, you want to be in this? I need a big guy." Like, sure. So I know it happens, but sometimes, like you said, some directors are just lucky. Some actually know exactly what they're doing and they pick these people, and then some have no clue. And go back to, like I said, I think when Rob Morgan did that film with Slick, and then he's been in some huge movies. He was in Hidden, what was it called? Hidden, something about numbers. The one about the astronauts going to space.
Hidden Figures.
Hidden Figures. He was in that. He was in, I believe he was in that. I know Jaden Kane was in that. He played the father of the little girl when she was becoming, growing up and was really good at math. Maybe Rob Morgan wasn't in that one, but Rob Morgan was in Mudbone, and he was really good in that. He played the father that gets killed in that, or he injured his leg or something to the effect. I haven't seen the movie in a long time, so I forget. But he's also been in a lot of Marvel stuff on Netflix and stuff like that when it was in, Netflix was doing all that. And he's just, like I said, Slick knew when he picked that guy what he was doing. And the guy didn't let him down. Rob didn't let him down. I mean, you got to see the film. I mean, I know this is not about the Omicron Killer, which we were talking about mostly, but I've worked on other great films as well that I think need to, like for me, Full Circle is like True Romance. It's a hidden gem. Like you didn't know that film was going to be as good as it is, and it really, really would surprise you.
Oh my gosh! I mean, yeah, I really wanted to talk about the Omicron Killer, but believe me, when we have you come back, and we will have you come back. Oh yeah, man. We'll get into some of the other films because I'm sure you have some awesome stories about your experiences. But I really wanted to give Omicron Killer its due diligence because
Of
I
course.
enjoyed that movie very much, and I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed a lot of
I
performances
am
in it.
very proud of that film. I've done a lot of films. Okay, I've produced a lot of films. I've helped make a lot of films. This is my favorite film. I've watched my own film, this film, 100 times. Not a joke. I love watching this film, and if I didn't like it, I wouldn't watch it, even if it's my own film. And it's just certain parts of that film is like watching a great Hollywood film that you have to see over and over. Every time it's on the TV, you sit down and watch it, even though you've seen it 20, 30, 40 times.
Right.
And I go out to find my film to watch it. I just like watching it, especially in the theater. Man, if you watch this in the theater, it's a different experience. Watch it online anyway, but when if you get a chance, talk to the distributing company and say, "Hey, put this in theaters," and then support. Because a lot of times, you get people saying, "Oh, there's nothing new. There's nothing new." This is new. This is
Oh
not
yeah.
a typical horror movie.
Though I hate that too. It's funny. It's like, I mean, there is one thing, like I watch Zumo. It's new to me, and I watch Tubi, and there's a lot of new movies out there, and I hear people talk about that all the time. Like, I don't, there's nothing really new out there, and I'm like, go exploring. Go to Bayview Entertainment. Go look at their roster. Look at the movies they got there. You trying to tell me you can't find something fresh and new to watch? I mean,
You might
it's like,
not like
why?
it. You might not like it, but it's new. It's
Yeah,
not the same old script. It's not analytical. It's not algorithm to how it's supposed to be done. They didn't set a computer up to pick it. That's what I like about our film too. We didn't use like CGI and all that other stuff that we could have used. We didn't use all that. We used practical effects, and I
well,
think that's what makes the film, like I said, more realistic. Is that it looks like something that the kills, especially, look like something that would really happen.
agreed. Now, my only request before I end this, please, whatever you do, please don't have the Omicron Killer. I'll try to take Manhattan. That's all I ask.
I have a scene that I want to do in Manhattan because I think it would be a phenomenal scene, but it definitely would not be Omicron takes Manhattan kind of thing.
Thank you. So, I mean, if you want to crush a boombox, I'm down for that. But that be the only thing.
It would be unique. I don't want to spoil anything about what we're doing. Like I told you, I want when you see it, I want you to be totally surprised at what you saw. Oh, I knew that was coming. No, no, no. If you knew that was coming, somebody leaked it because it's not something that you've seen before. So it's a little unique.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I had a delightful time talking to you tonight. This has
Me
been,
too,
like I
man.
said, I've been looking forward to this for a lot, for ever since we did it.
I
And
appreciate
'cause I was trying hard to get you and Jeff and Jeff was like, man, I'm talked to death about that movie. But then he saw the interview I did with Chris, and he goes like, I'm not suddenly I'm not all that talked out. So we're gonna set up something for him and I will talk. And of
That's
course, I
one of the
had you.
issues. That's one of the
Uh,
issues with interviews. Like sometimes they ask the exact same question. It's like, did you not watch the other interviews? You could just take a clip out of that and save me some time. Don't ask him, does he like to eat broccoli? Don't ask him if he wears briefs or boxers. Ask him something a little bit more uh, interesting about film, and you'll get something out of him. But just don't make it generic, and you'll be fine. But like I said, I've watched the interviews or read the interviews he was in. It was like, these are exact same questions.
oh,
I
I
can
hate that.
understand why a band who's been doing it for 20 years gets the same question they got 20 years ago. It's like, that's exhausting.
It is. It is. And I do anybody can tell you that watch me for any length of time. They can tell you that you ain't gonna get that shit from here.
Good.
We'll sink our teeth into some real substance. I don't want to bore anybody, especially the guests. Like what's your favorite color, or what three actors are your favorites, or what's your like, no, I'm not gonna do all that. I might ask, it all depends who I talk to and how I sense it. But tonight I knew it was gonna be some serious film talk. And talking to you, I'm thinking of my friend Daniel Hill. You and him together talking film together. I pay money to see that.
I
I would
appreciate it.
pay I would pay money to see you two guys talk about film. Just tremendous, tremendously gifted. Um, he actually is classically trained, which would be interesting to watch you both talk because he is classically trained and you're practically trained. But I still think you two have so much in common. You definitely would bond for sure.
And
Um,
I respect the classically trained.
me too.
It's not for everybody, but for those who it is for, look, you get some quality work out of them too.
Um, I don't think he's going to answer that question, Ivan. I don't think that's a question. That's a question we're gonna have to wait. Though I am impressed though he spelled the crazy clowning the name right. That's a good thing.
Well,
All right, boys and girls. That's going to be our time for tonight. We're going to let Paul get going. I do thank you for coming out and talking to us. And
Brad,
tomorrow night, we'll be back at it tomorrow. We're back at it tomorrow. We're talking to a small business owner. His name's Doug. He runs Retro Fusion 3D. And actually, I am going to tell him I'd like to see him make a Omicron Killer. He prints 3D stands. I'd like to see if he do that and to see if he make a Omni Killer 3D.
if you got a few seconds, I'd like to let you know about the fact that we also have some of the characters in one of the wrestling games, WWE 2K23.
Who do you have in the game?
Me, Brock, the characters from Bai Ling, COVID Killer, the Copycat, like a whole bunch of characters are in there, and you can play them as the actual wrestlers and wrestle other characters in the game.
Oh my gosh! No, I did not know that. That's amazing. That's really cool. That's really cool. But I want you to stay right where you're at for a minute, because we're going to talk a little bit off camera. But I want to thank the chat for coming out there and supporting the show tonight. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for Ivan and Keisha and Betty J and the Bones. I'll be seeing you on the Boneyard later. John on Doomsday Crypt. Oh, the previous big guy, the biggest guy I've ever had on the show would be Brett Wagner, the Lost Leatherface. He's probably the biggest guy short of you. And then so that's who you surpassed. Because I think Brett is like 6'4", 6'5". But the Lost Leather. I had a lot of fun tonight. Thank you guys so much for your support. Wouldn't be able to do it without you guys. But we'll see you tomorrow night at 8:00. We'll be talking to Retro Fusion 3D owner Doug. I gotta get his last name. I really don't know it. All right, but stay right where you're at, real quick, and everybody else. I'll talk to you tomorrow night at 8:00. Peace.